London, England, July 14, 1988. Wembley Stadium stood as a monument to anticipation on this mild summer evening, its massive structure humming with the collective energy of 72,000 people who had secured tickets to what had become the most sought-after entertainment event in the city's recent history. The occasion was the first of Michael Jackson's 5 sold-out shows at the legendary venue, the London centerpiece of his Bad World Tour and his debut performance in this iconic stadium. At 29 years old, Michael existed at a complex intersection of his career and personal journey. The unprecedented success of Thriller had transformed not just his professional trajectory, but the very landscape of popular music and entertainment. Bad, released the previous year, represented both continuation and evolution of his artistic vision, maintaining the commercial appeal that had made him a global phenomenon while pushing into new creative territories that reflected his maturing perspective. The tour itself embodied this same duality, building on the spectacular production values introduced during the Victory Tour, while incorporating elements that revealed Michael's expanding artistic ambitions and deepening social consciousness. Each performance was meticulously crafted to create not just entertainment, but an immersive experience that transported audiences from passive observation to active emotional participation. Backstage at Wembley, in the private suite that had been transformed into his personal preparation space, Michael moved through the ritual that preceded every performance, the focus-centering process that enabled his transition from the introspective, soft-spoken person to the electrifying performer who would soon command the attention of tens of thousands. His preparation was characterized by the same meticulous attention to detail that defined every aspect of his work. Each element of costume, makeup, and mental focus approached with deliberate intention rather than routine habit. What distinguished this particular preparation, despite its outward similarity to previous pre-show rituals, was an underlying current not of anxiety but of heightened awareness. Though he would never have articulated it directly to those around him, Michael understood the significance of this Wembley debut beyond its status as another sold-out stadium on the tour schedule. London had always held particular importance in his artistic consciousness, the city where the Jackson 5 had received some of their earliest international recognition, the cultural epicenter where many of the theatrical traditions that influenced his evolving performance style had originated. Wembley itself carried its own mythic weight, a venue that had hosted legendary performances by artists Michael had studied throughout his development. To stand on that stage was to enter a lineage that connected directly to the history of live performance at its most impactful. This awareness, though privately held, infused his preparation with an additional layer of purpose beyond the already substantial commitment he brought to every show. As his makeup artist completed the final touches and his costume team made the last adjustments to his opening outfit, Michael's focus turned inward, the particular mental alignment that those closest to him recognized as the final transition before performance. Frank DiLeo, his manager, approached with the customary 5-minute warning, but instead of the usual brief acknowledgement, Michael responded with an unexpected question. "Is it raining?" he asked, his soft voice carrying a note of genuine curiosity rather than concern. DiLeo, momentarily surprised by the inquiry, confirmed that despite earlier weather reports suggesting possible showers, the evening had remained clear, perfect conditions for the open-air stadium performance. Michael nodded, absorbing this information with the same attentive consideration he brought to every element that might affect the audience experience. "They've been waiting a long time," he said simply, a statement that encompassed not just the hours fans had spent queuing outside the stadium but the years of anticipation for this moment. His first solo performance in this iconic London venue. The observation revealed a quality that those who worked closely with Michael had come to recognize as central to his approach. Beneath the spectacular production elements and technical precision of his performances lay a fundamental awareness of and respect for the audience's emotional investment. Every decision, every detail was ultimately in service to the connection between artist and those who had come to experience his work. As he rose and moved toward the stage entrance, his transformation was visibly complete, the slight, thoughtful figure giving way to the poised, focused presence that would soon command one of the world's largest performance spaces. The final steps of his journey from private preparation to public presentation were accompanied by the rising sound of the crowd, 72,000 voices creating a wall of anticipation that physically resonated through the backstage corridors. In the stadium itself, the atmosphere had built to an almost unbearable intensity. The demographic diversity of the audience was immediately apparent: children brought by parents who had grown up with Jackson 5 records, teenagers for whom Thriller and Bad represented the soundtrack of their adolescence, music industry professionals drawn by professional curiosity and genuine fandom, celebrities from across entertainment fields there to witness what had already been established as a landmark tour. What unified this disparate gathering was a shared state of anticipation that transcended ordinary pre-concert excitement. This wasn't merely the expectation of entertainment, but the collective recognition of impending witness to a cultural event whose significance extended beyond the bounds of typical performance. The conversations that filled the stadium during the extended pre-show period reflected this awareness. Discussions not just of favorite songs or previous concerts attended, but of Michael's artistic evolution, his cultural impact, his redefinition of what was possible in the integration of music, dance, and visual storytelling. As the house lights finally dimmed, the response was immediate and overwhelming. A sound that contained not just volume but a complex emotional quality that registered physically throughout the massive space. The opening sequence had been specifically designed to maximize the impact of Michael's first appearance. An extended musical introduction accompanied by lighting effects and atmospheric elements that built anticipation to an almost unbearable peak before his actual emergence onto the stage. When Michael finally appeared, rising from beneath the stage in a cloud of theatrical fog, holding a pose of perfect stillness that somehow contained all the kinetic energy about to be released, the response transcended ordinary applause or cheering to become something approaching collective catharsis. The sound that emerged from 72,000 people simultaneously was not just appreciation or excitement but the physical expression of emotional fulfillment. The release that comes when long-held anticipation meets reality that exceeds rather than merely satisfies expectation. If the story moves you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more moments that define the King of Pop's extraordinary journey. What followed during the next 2 hours would be described by music critics, entertainment journalists, and cultural commentators as a performance that transcended the already exceptional standard Michael had established throughout the tour. While the set list and overall production structure remained consistent with previous shows, there was a quality of heightened presence, of exceptional connection between artist and audience, that transformed the familiar elements into something that felt simultaneously prepared and spontaneous, meticulously crafted yet authentically immediate. The first indication that this performance would exceed even the tour's established excellence came during Smooth Criminal, the cinematic production number that typically represented the theatrical peak of the show's first segment. As the familiar orchestral introduction began and the elaborate film noir-inspired sequence unfolded on the massive video screens, a subtle but significant shift was evident in Michael's physical commitment to the narrative. Each movement, each gesture carried an additional layer of intention. Not merely technical execution of choreography, but complete embodiment of the character and story being presented. By the time the sequence reached its iconic lean, the physically impossible 45-degree forward tilt that had required special patented footwear to achieve, the audience response had evolved from appreciation of spectacular entertainment to a more complex recognition of witnessing something that transcended ordinary performance categories. This wasn't just pop music or dance or theater, but a seamless integration that created something new from these established forms. The performance's emotional center emerged during Man in the Mirror, the anthem of personal and social transformation that had increasingly become the heart of Michael's artistic message. For this song, the elaborate production elements were deliberately minimized, focusing attention on the direct communication between artist and audience through music and voice, rather than spectacular visual elements. What distinguished the Wembley rendition from previous performances of this song was a quality of vulnerability that Michael allowed to emerge through his vocal delivery, a willingness to reveal the genuine emotional connection he felt to the material that transcended the necessary performance persona required for stadium-scale entertainment. There were moments, particularly during the song's powerful bridge, where his voice carried a rawness rarely heard in his meticulously controlled vocal approach. Not technical imperfection but deliberate choice to prioritize emotional authenticity over polished execution. The audience response to this vulnerability was immediate and profound. Throughout the massive stadium, hardened music industry veterans found themselves moved alongside first-time concertgoers, the shared recognition of authentic emotional expression cutting across all demographic divisions. The sustained applause following the song's conclusion contained not just appreciation for technical excellence, but acknowledgement of genuine communication achieved across the vast physical distance between stage and furthest seats. The most extraordinary moment of the performance came during Billie Jean, the iconic hit that had introduced his revolutionary dance skills to a global audience through the Motown 25 television special 5 years earlier. While this song had been a highlight throughout the tour, with the signature moonwalk consistently generating the night's most explosive audience response, the Wembley performance contained an unprecedented addition that transformed an already exceptional sequence into something approaching transcendence. Following the familiar instrumental break that typically featured his most elaborate dance sequence, Michael motioned for the band to continue the groove rather than proceeding to the song's final chorus as in the standard arrangement. For the next 3 minutes and 42 seconds, a duration later confirmed by the production team's timekeeping, he embarked on an entirely improvised dance exploration that seemed to compress his entire artistic evolution into a single, uninterrupted flow of movement. Elements from his earliest Jackson 5 performances merged with the pioneering isolation techniques he had developed during the off-the-wall era, transformed through the revolutionary popping and locking innovations introduced in Thriller, and expanded with entirely new movement vocabulary that suggested the future direction of his evolving dance language. The sequence contained both perfect technical execution and the electric quality of spontaneous creation, each movement emerging organically from the previous while maintaining a coherent narrative arc throughout the extended improvisation. Throughout Wembley Stadium, the response to this unprecedented display evolved from initial excitement to a more profound quality of witness. 72,000 people collectively holding their breath as they recognized they were experiencing something beyond the ordinary parameters of even exceptional performance. Music critics present that evening would later struggle to find language adequate to describe this sequence, resorting to comparisons with transcendent moments in other art forms. Nureyev's most liberated ballet innovations, Olivier's most fully embodied Shakespearean transformations, Picasso's most revolutionary reimaginings of visual possibility. When Michael finally concluded the improvised section, returning to the song's structure for its final chorus, the audience response was unlike anything previously experienced in Wembley's storied history. The sound that emerged from 72,000 people simultaneously was described by the stadium's technical staff as exceeding the volume levels of any previous concert, sporting event, or public gathering in the venue, not just in decibel measurement but in the particular quality of unified emotional expression. As the performance approached its conclusion, there was a palpable sense throughout the stadium that something extraordinary had transpired. Not merely exceptional entertainment, but a genuine cultural moment whose significance would extend beyond the immediate experience. The final sequence, featuring Man in the Mirror, reprised as encore, created perfect emotional resolution to the journey the audience had shared with the performer over the preceding 2 hours. Michael's final gesture before leaving the stage, a moment of stillness with arms outstretched that contrasted with the kinetic energy that had characterized the majority of the performance, contained both acknowledgement of the audience's contribution to the evening and a quality of genuine gratitude that transcended performed appreciation. For several extended moments, he remained in this pose, allowing the connection between himself and the 72,000 present to register fully before the lights dimmed for his exit. As the house lights rose and the audience began the slow process of returning from the heightened state of communal experience to individual consciousness, the conversations that filled Wembley Stadium reflected recognition of having witnessed something beyond ordinary performance excellence. Complete strangers engaged in animated discussion about specific moments that had moved them, attempting to articulate the particular quality that had elevated this concert from entertainment to transformative experience. If you've been moved by this glimpse into one of the most legendary performances in Michael Jackson's extraordinary career, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we keep alive the memory of how a single concert can transcend entertainment to become a cultural moment that resonates across decades. In the days that followed, the Wembley debut became the subject of extensive coverage across British and international media. Not merely the expected attention given to a major entertainment event, but analysis that approached the performance as significant cultural phenomenon. Music critics who had entered with professional skepticism found themselves writing reviews that acknowledged being moved beyond objective assessment to genuine emotional response. Cultural commentators noted how the performance had demonstrated something profound about the possibility of creating authentic human connection within the necessarily spectacular framework of stadium-scale entertainment. Perhaps the most telling response came from fellow artists who had attended the opening night. David Bowie, himself a pioneer of theatrical performance integration, was quoted in the London Times as saying, "What Michael achieved tonight wasn't just exceptional entertainment, though it certainly was that. It was a demonstration of what becomes possible when complete technical mastery serves genuine emotional communication rather than mere display. He's redefined what can be accomplished in a space that size." For Michael himself, the Wembley opening represented a confirmation of artistic purpose that transcended the commercial success and public acclaim. Though characteristically reserved in his public assessment of his own work, those closest to him noted a particular quality of quiet satisfaction in the days following the performance. Not pride in technical achievement but recognition of having created genuine connection with 72,000 people simultaneously, of having transformed a massive public gathering into a shared experience of authentic emotional communication. The subsequent 4 Wembley shows maintained the exceptional technical standard established on opening night, each receiving its own critical acclaim and enthusiastic audience response. But those who attended multiple performances noted that there remained something singular about that first night. A perfect alignment of artist, audience, and moment that created something that transcended even the high standard of excellence maintained throughout the engagement. In the years that followed, as Michael's career and life trajectory moved through its complex evolution of continued artistic innovation and increasing personal challenges, the Wembley performances, particularly that transcendent opening night, remained a touchstone for both critics and fans attempting to articulate the particular genius of his work at its most fully realized. More than spectacular entertainment, more even than groundbreaking integration of music and movement, what had transpired in that massive London stadium was a demonstration of the possibility of creating genuine human connection at a scale that would have seemed impossible in any other context. 30 years later, when both Wembley Stadium and Michael Jackson had left this earthly realm, the venue demolished and rebuilt in 2007, the artist passing in 2009. The memory of those July 1988 performances remained alive through both official documentation and the personal recollections of those who had been present. While the concerts had been professionally recorded, with portions later released as part of the Live at Wembley DVD, those who had experienced the performances in person maintained that no recording could fully capture the particular quality of connection that had defined those evenings, especially that extraordinary opening night when a 29-year-old artist at the height of his powers had transformed a massive stadium into an intimate space for shared emotional experience. In that enduring impact, that capacity to create genuine connection that transcended time and physical circumstance, lay perhaps the truest measure of Michael Jackson's singular artistic achievement. Beyond the record-breaking sales, beyond the innovative videos, beyond the revolutionary dance techniques, his greatest contribution was the demonstration that authentic emotional communication remains possible even at the most spectacular scale, that genuine human connection can be achieved even across the vast distance between a single performer and tens of thousands of witnesses, that art at its most powerful transcends mere entertainment to become shared experience that continues to resonate across decades.